I'd like to introduce our speaker today. All of us know this gentleman, local in the community, Bayshore High School, went to MCC. Was it MJC or MCC? MCC. Okay, you're not that old. You're a youngster over there. Maybe it was State College. You know, was it? You weren't there at State College. Okay. Anyway, but Mayor Gene Brown will be speaking to us today. There's so much he's done. Boys and Girls Club Hall of Famer, didn't realize that. Coaches, big time coach of Manatee Girls Softball, Manatee High School broadcaster. I get the privilege of talking to him and catching up a little bit. Many breakfasts that are out there. Manatee Sheriff's Advisory Committee, and really our hometown hero. I'd like to welcome a friend to all of us as a member of the Bradenton Kiwanis, Mayor Gene Brown.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, man.
So I know I was looking out there and, we were adding tables and we had some extra brochures, but I figure everybody wanted to come here and listen to the crap I got to talk about today. So, and our wastewater system and some of the things we're going to go over. Going to bring up, and I just want to, Mac, why don't we show that video first and then just a 30-second PSA. Hi, I'm Mayor Gene Brown. We're here at our wastewater reclamation facility. We're here to talk about our face it and fix it approach. As mayor, I believe in being upfront with the challenges our city faces. The truth is, Bradenton's infrastructure, like many older cities, has aged, and recent events such as unprecedented rainfall have exposed weaknesses in our sewer and wastewater systems. These issues didn't happen overnight, and they won't be solved overnight either, but it's crucial we face them head on. That's why we've adopted the face it, fix it approach. This isn't just about patching things up temporarily. It's about a long-term commitment to modernizing our infrastructure so Bradenton can thrive for generations to come. It's an acknowledgement that the problems we face are real, but with smart investments and strategic actions, we can fix them. All right, thank you. You see that and you look in the ground. You saw that big hole. I'm probably going to steal this from Mr. Perry, but that's probably the biggest swimming pool size hole we have in the ground at our reclamation facility over by the flea market. And that's been in the process for about 3.5 years. You have to go through permitting and different things that we get. And that was one of the things when I did talk to the president a couple weeks ago when he called and checked on Bradenton. You know that the storm's pretty bad when you're getting the media attention you are because it's coming right at you. And then when the president calls and others call and say, how are you doing? That was one of the things I said, our aging infrastructure, as well as every other West Coast community has the same thing. So, but it was more about how we're going to fix it and what we're going to do federally and what we're going to do to get the different EPA, DEP permits that we need not to take 1.5 to 2 years to get. Because if we wouldn't have had to wait almost 2 years to get that hole in the ground where it's at now, it might have been done now instead of by the end of next year, because that will be a clarifier that's going to be 3 times what we can clarify today. Now that's not going to fix everything that we have, but our number one goal is to be out of the river, and the law right now is 2032. But even before that, when I came in, and before the waterkeeper situation that we're in, we were already working some of it. And when waterkeepers got done with St. Pete and other areas, they came to us because, and that's a good thing in a way that you're going to face it and fix it. So, looking at a lot of things that we do, and when you looked at this unprecedented storm season, it started in June with the rain. We had almost 50 inches in 3 months. Then Debbie hits. And that brings more, and it overwhelmed our system. Our wastewater system can handle about 9 million gallons a day easily. But we pump out of our water about 5 to 6 million gallons a day. So if you look at it from a logistical standpoint, 5 to 6 million gallons going out, you expect about 5 to 6 million gallons to come back. Well, if you're looking at a system Well, that's only 67% of the system, so we should be okay. But because of our aged manholes, our aged pipes that we have, and there's some pictures on your table, Rob will go over those, but you can see where we're getting the stormwater intrusion, and that's the biggest problem that we have. It's not what we send out and what comes back from flushing your toilets and your washer and dryers and your showers. It's the excess stormwater that's leaking into our system. One of the things I was most proud of, and we've got a couple of council people in the room, 3 of them in there that supported it at the time, and this is a political thing that you can talk about, the ARPA money that came to us. You can agree or disagree that should have come in the way it came, but we felt, and the board I think was pretty unanimous on it, well, excuse me, 4-1, but the 4 of the council members and myself felt that if we're going to take the ARPA money and it's going to generationally mortgage our grandchildren's future, why don't we use it to something that's going to help their future? And so we put 9 of the $11 million towards lining our pipes. And again, it was a 4-1 vote, so the majority supported, or supermajority, and that has worked. We've lined many miles of pipe, but we still have, I believe, about 70 miles left. That's something that I did tell the president, that there's some federal funding that can finish that lining that we were already working before. When I talked to him, I used every angle I could on, if I need that before the election, maybe it's $22 million, and we're working with Sarasota Bay Estuary, others. As we know in life, it's all who you meet, when you meet them, and how you connect with it. So that's something we're working federally now, because if you're going to fine us and do other things for it, then you got to help us fix it too, because it's taken a long time. One of the best things I believe Bradenton did in the late 80s, early 90s is get wastewater improvements to us, get us our water system with Evers Reservoir, because we're not dependent on somebody else. One of the things we haven't done a good job at is set up a plan to maintain it for the future in a infrastructure policy. Now that's government sometimes. I use this, and it's kind of a silly analogy, but if I've got 4 tires and they're starting to get a little bald, but I think I could get another 2,000 miles out of it, I'll probably try that, because then the tires will last me longer. But if one of them blows, I can fix it in a day. If we got a sewer system and water systems, it's not going to be fixed in a day. So that's why we came up with the face it, fix it. Something's happened over 40 years, we can't fix in 40 days. And I'll go one more thing that I had a friend ask me, call when he was reading about it. He said, Gene, if you had all the money right now, how long would it take to fix it? Here's $1 billion, fix it. Still going to take 5 to 10 years, just because of the process. But that's one of the things that we're doing. We're working through it. We've already started this 4 years ago, and even started a little bit before that. But in these 4 years, with Mr. Perry the great group, with the great council supporting that, we're able to face it and fix it and get stuff done. We were one of the first for ARS wells in the ground, where once it's reclaimed and processed to that, it's drinkable. But I don't know anybody in this room would raise their hand if you just want to drink it after it's been through that plant and do it. But it is water quality drinkable. But when we put it down in the well, and our well is already going in the ground there too at the reclamation facility, we, instead of releasing it into the river like we have permits to do, we can release it down into the aquifer, and then when we bring it back up, it comes back up as fresh water. That's the process, and I don't know all the hydrology or whatever terms you want to use, but it's great. The last thing, and I said that already, but the last thing I'll talk about is our Suncoast Waterkeeper does some water quality every week, and you can see it on their products and testing it. And when you looked in August, when we had Debbie, we worked about 10 billion gallons of stormwater. If you look at all the red on their charts back August 28th, you can see that was more about stormwater, which actually makes our levels higher. You look through the last thing that was October 22nd, you can see that there's a lot of green now in areas, and the numbers are very low. So when you're looking through some things, we don't want to release anything into the river. But, it's a process you go through, and when you've got billions and billions and billions of gallons in different ways, 100 million gallons isn't that much. And I'm not saying that lightly. 100 million gallons is a lot. But when you add it into the billions and billions, it's not as devastating as people think. But we want to completely stop. And that's our goal. Face it and fix it. So at this time, I'll bring up Mr. Perry and let him talk. And I've got the timer on because we'll be done before 1 o'clock to get questions. So perfect. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Mayor and Council and esteemed membership and guests. I'm Rob Perry, and I'm the city manager. I've been doing this for a little bit over 3 years for the city, working with Mayor Brown. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about wastewater 101 and the face it and fix it. So face what is the issue? When you say face it and fix it, we're trying to approach these head on. So if we go to look at a system, a wastewater system, there's really only two components out of it that are major. One is a collection system, and so we send water out from Ebbets Reservoir as potable water. We use it for our laundry, we use it for our dishwasher, we use it for showers, we drink it and the like. It's potable water. We send out about 5 to 6 million gallons a day. And so you would think in a closed loop system, you should bring back about the same amount because it's all closed loop and it's drains that come back to the wastewater plant. But it first comes back to the wastewater plant through a lateral from your house to the transmission line. And then if you're on the far west side, or the far east side, it goes through a series of lift stations that force it either through gravity or through pumping back to the headworks of the wastewater plant. So there's this collection system that I'm going to talk about, and then the treatment system. If we could go to the next slide, please. Rain, go away. And we've heard that before. Between June and August of this year, we had about 48 inches of rain as determined by National Weather Service Ruskin. 47 inches to be exact. The average for that 3-month period usually is about 22 inches. So we by far surpassed it by double the amount of rain. And so the water gets saturated. What happens when the water gets saturated in a collection system is depicted in these photos that I put on top of the table if you just want to pass these around. These are the collection pipes that basically go through the street. And we send cameras down to inspect the condition of those pipes. Some of them were built in the 1940s and 50s out of clay. They're corrosive. Clay basically is a natural earthen substance, and it breaks down. And with this first picture, we see a little rodent in our pipe when it breaks down. We also have cast iron, corrosive material. At the time, that's what they were using for these pipe systems. And so now what we use is PVC composite that's rated at 50 or 60 years. The problem with these kinds of pipes when they corrode and they penetrate, and you can see this one in the collapsed pipe, and this looks like it looks like this is clay as well, is that water gets in. So all this rainwater comes into your system. And you're not taking back now that 5 to 6 million gallons a day. In some cases, we're taking back 27 or 30 million gallons a day. And so what happens on the other end at the treatment plant? Then you have to process much more capacity. And so we talk about a wastewater system in terms of collection and treatment. And here are some other pictures of fractured pipe in here. But it's not just the pipe. These are the manholes. So we have about 270 miles of collection pipe in the city. About 65 miles are corrosive. The stuff that's new on the east side at Tidewater and the like is new composite. It's not going to have to be replaced. But if you go down 12th Avenue to 26th to 51st, the older parts of West Bradenton, where 2/3 of the collection system and waste comes from, that's the corrosive pipe. 270 miles, we've replaced about 65 of it corrosive. We've taken the 9 million the mayor talked about, and we replaced about half of the corrosive, 35 miles of the 65. We have another 16 million coming on board that we borrowed this year from an SRF fund, state revolving fund, and we're going to be able to do about this, maybe a little bit more than that. We inspect the pipes. That's where these pictures come from. But also manholes. They're made of bricks. Back in the day, they'd have a mason, line bricks, skilled masons. You look at a manhole system now, it's basically all solid engineered concrete. There's no seams in it. The bottom is engineered so that it doesn't corrode out and allow that excess I&I. It's called inflow and infiltration. The mayor talked about most places in Florida all have it. The older cities like Bradenton, has a lot more of it, frankly, than newer places like Lakewood Ranch and the like. So we got that problem out there, and then that all gets relayed basically through a series of lift stations and master lift stations. But when it comes to the plant, we have problems there. I talked about 4,200, I don't think I did, 4,200 manholes. We've done about 1,000 of it with inspections and repairing them. I don't have pictures of the repaired, but we line the pipes. You can't afford to replace the pipes because you got to dig up the roads, right? And it's so expensive. So we inspect it and we put a bladder down there, a rubberized composite bladder. We blow it up with certain equipment and it lines the pipe and makes a nice tight seal, and the warranty work is about 50 years on that. Kind of the same type of thing with the manholes. So we're using technology. We've increased our engineering staff by, I think we had 3 before. We have about 9 engineers on board now. And I'm not a big government guy, but I thought it was a good investment of getting the right people doing the right job. Talked about the pipe, talked about the manholes and the 64 lift stations. Every one of these lift stations has big pumps, and it has wet wells that it goes into, and it's electronics. It gets hit by lightning. You, out in River Isles, boom, right, during Debbie. Lift station gets hit by lightning, it goes out, blows up everything around there. It's a problem because you got to fortify these things. That's what we call it in our business. You got to put lightning suppressors, you got to get the wave harmonics. The power that comes out of them, 880 watts. Think about home service, 120. That's high electrical current that's going through there. Very sensitive. It's dirty. FPL dumps it off there. Any kind of variation in the 64 waves that are each individual, like a wave in the ocean, interferes with the electronics. It's called wave harmonics. It's in the deep stuff. We have electrical engineers that deal with that. So we have to deal with that as part of the collection system. If we could go to the next one. And so we're trying to fix this but back at the plant as well. The plant, basically, we're trying to expand capacity there. We talked about rated at 9 million, handles on 5 to 6 million gallons per day. And really, we can sustain flows at like 20 to 25, but not over a prolonged period of time. And during Debbie, which had that whole month of August that was bad rain, we discharged 27 million gallons of water into the Manatee River. That's what we got to face. That's the face it. But we also have a plan to fix it. And we can fix it by redoing certain components at the plant, the entirety of the collection system, as we rehab that. And we are using a variety of funding sources. We have gone to SRF, borrowed $50 million. Mayor talked about the first part being the clarifier is 16 million, biggest hole in the city, huge part of the treatment process, and that will increase our capacity and our treatment process and clarification. We're also doing an aquifer recharge well. That's about $12 million. Ultimately, everybody's got to be out of the river. We have a DEP permit to treat and put the treated water back in the river. Most people do that live on a waterway type of thing because there aren't many other places you can do with the water. We sell some of it to the Lakewood Ranch area, basically. But in the summer, they don't want our water because it's raining. They get plenty of irrigation water. And so we have to have a place to put that in our DEP permit. Ultimately, we have to be out of the river by 2034. We're going to be out of the river way closer than that because right now you see the big derrick as you drive down First Street and you look at the construction and the drill. And we're drilling right now. We have a permit. Mayor talked about took us 2-3 years to get the permit, but we're doing an aquifer recharge. So we'll put it back into the aquifer. This is treated water, fully treated. It will attenuate naturally through the aquifer system and ultimately be spread out through large fingers and levels of aquifer underground storage that I think it's about 1,200 feet below sea level. That'll take us time, and so we're working through that on the rehabilitation efforts. If we could keep going. We use a variety of different federal funds we're trying to get for that. We received some. Vern Buchanan's office has been very helpful with that on the federal level. Jimmy Boyd and Will Robinson very helpful at the state level, getting us resiliency funds to address these too. So there are long-term solutions, and you might wonder, well, doesn't Manatee County have the same problem? They're old, and they do. But when you drive down 53rd, you might see right by the golf course a huge retention pond there. That's called a reject reuse retention pond. So they partially treat the water when it comes in those kinds of volumes. They park it over here until the volume goes down when there's a couple of days without rain, and then they slowly process it back in. We don't have reject reuse, and we're building on that too. We plan on building temporary and probably permanent solutions to that. I just had a meeting with Jacobs Engineering that's trying to engineer some the technical solutions to that, and ultimately we'll be able to, move that water. Now, are we going to be able to build an infrastructure that will handle a 100 or 500-year storm every year? Probably not. Because I wouldn't think that most of us could afford to build a hurricane-proof home for a Cat 5 every year either. We could do it. We could get the engineers and they could design it. But it would probably cost us about 10 times what a typical house would cost. So with that, we can do certain remediation. But at the end of the day, we are all subject to Mother Nature. And we study the science of this to see how frequently it will occur, how resilient we have to be. And that's the objective, to come up with a resiliency plan so that, one, it operates at a normal level properly, and two, it can sustain a certain degree of natural weather event and other type event challenges. And we're back behind it. We have a great council that, as Mayor pointed out, has voted in full support of funding for this. It's not going to be easy. And when you look at a system and budget the size of the cities and the size of our enterprise being soil and water, a couple $100 million is a lot of money. And we're putting our money where our mouth is, and we intend to face it and fix it with those efforts.
All right. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. And you've gotten one of these before, but it's a golden ruler, very coveted, okay, from the Bradenton Kiwanis.
Thank you.
Let's continue to monitor and keep things going in the right directions.
Yes, thank you.
All right?
Appreciate it.
Your presentation really flowed tonight. We have got some great programs. We've got some great programs coming up. We've got Veterans Day in a couple of weeks. We've got Ag Day, Farm City Week coming up. We're going to take a little bit of a break for some holidays in there with Thanksgiving. And we've got the Commissioner of Agriculture, Will Simpson, I believe, that's going to be speaking to us. And next week, we've got Ernie Withers with Defibrillate, Manatee Foundation, along with Martine Gramatica. Many of us remember Martine Gramatica from the Bucks. So we're going to kick off a great meeting then. All right, so I'm done. Everybody have a great finish to the week. Thanks for being here.